is Goodchild.
Thank you. God, there's a lot of you, isn't there? I've got a Fitbit on at the moment, and it measures my heart rate, and it's been beeping at me when I sat there. Apparently, I'm in a cardio zone. I'm not. Just sat on a chair and I'm shit scared. So, yeah, I'm burning calories as I talk to you. My dad texted me before. He calls me piss pot, my dad, which went down well in therapy in my 20s. My therapist was quite concerned with that. And he said, go for it today, piss pot. Remember you're a good child. He said it to me my entire life. Whenever I was about to do something new or scary as a kid, he'd say, remember you're a good child, Liz. And I'd say, all right, Dad, I will. And I, for the life of me, didn't actually know what it meant at all for my entire childhood. So about a month ago, when I was thinking about this talk, I called him and I said, Dad, do you know when you used to tell me as a kid, and even now, remember you're a good child? What did you actually mean by that? And he said, it means remember who you are, Liz. Be who you are. You know, be yourself. Don't forget who you are. He actually told me a much, much longer story than that. It was a bit of a sob story about how they were poor when they were kids, and his mum used to say it to him because they all looked down on him. But I won't go into that now. So essentially, it was about being who you are, just being yourself, which is simple advice, isn't it? Just be you. It's up there with just do what you love and the money will follow. Or just dream big. Do what you love and the money will follow. If I did that, if I took that advice, I'd just sit on the sofa and watch Netflix all day eating pizza. I don't think there's much money in that. And if anyone knows that you can do that, then let me know, because I'd be good at it. So, just be you. What does that actually mean? I'm being myself right now, I think. There's no facade. There's no mask. I'm not pretending. I'm not hiding. I was talking to Brad earlier. He is an extrovert, yeah? And I said, I'm not. I'm an introvert. And he said, oh. And he said, you're one of those high-functioning introverts, aren't you? And I said, yeah. I said, I'll have to go into a decompression chamber after this, and I won't talk to humans for a few days. So a lot of people do think that I'm really confident, and I am an extrovert. And in a way, I am. You know, I am confident. But there's also part of me, especially right now, that's shitting myself. And it's made worse by this part of my brain that I call Barry. I hope there's no Barrys in the room. It's not, no offence. And Barry is a bit annoying. And I can hear him now as I'm standing here doing my thing. He's chirping away in the background. He's saying, Liz, I know you're doing your thing right now in front of all these people and you've got lots to say, but what if you're shit? Or what if they don't like your shoes? Or what if they're thinking really mean things about you? What if they're judging you? Anyway, I'll leave that with you, but, you know, just bear that in mind. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Barry. So, yeah, I am really, really, really shit scared right now. I'm worrying you are all judging me, because you probably are, because you're human, and humans judge. Even though you're a coach and you're non-judgmental, I know you're judging. Which really ramps up my fear even more, knowing that you will be judging me. And yet, I'm going to use the fact that you're probably judging me, and that's scaring me, as a way of connecting with you all right now. Because the moment I started talking about my fear, something might have stirred in your brain too. a recognition of what it feels like to be stood up in a room full of your peers, people you don't know. I've got some clients in this room, which is making it even worse, because they really know me. You might even have butterflies in your belly right now. You might be experiencing that hot, creeping feeling up the back of your neck. You might be wanting to shift in your chair, or you might feel a bit agitated. And what you're experiencing is empathy with me and what I'm going through right now. And for most of you, empathy will be at the heart of your coaching practice and the base of the container from which you work. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Empathy is saying, I see you and I get what's going on for you right now, and I'm here. And it's such a beautiful, powerful thing, as you'll all know. Now, I could have just missed the last 5 minutes of what I've just said. I could have skipped over the fear bit. I could have glossed over it. I could have talked instead about my 5 top tips to be a powerful personal brand, or whatever this talk's called. I can't even remember. But it wouldn't have been the truth, because there are no 5 top tips, unfortunately for you all. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm just not that kind of coach. There's plenty of those coaches out there, though, aren't there? I cannot be the only one who sits in front of my laptop as my Facebook feed just fills with, coaches who profess to be able to change people's lives in 3 simple steps, or the 7-figure coach brigade, whose marketing copy basically goes, hi, my life was shit, and I never had any money. And then I dreamt big, and I asked the universe, and I hustled hard. And now I live on a beach in Bali, and I work 20 minutes a day. And you can do that too if you give me £10,000. We all know them, right? I'm sorry if there's anyone in this room. Could be going bad, this talk. Meanwhile, it's not working. I wear my sheep cardigan when I coach my clients. And my cat, Lily, that's Lily, the demon cat, she often jumps in front of the laptop when I'm coaching my clients via Skype. And I don't profess to magically change people's lives with 3 simple steps. I don't pretend to have it all figured out, because I don't. I'm me. I'm kind of scrappy. I'm complicated. I'm a bit messy. I'm sensitive, and I'm a total work in progress. And I work with people who are similar. My most favourite poet of all, Mary Oliver. Have we got any Mary Oliver fans in the house? Yeah. She once wrote, "Tell me about your despair, and I will tell you mine." Now, a few years ago, someone emailed me. She was a host of a podcast. And she said, "I would love, love, love to interview you for my podcast because you fascinate me, Liz Goodchild." And I was like, oh. And she said, "You fascinate me because you haven't really got your shit together, have you?" I said, "Oh, all right, yeah. And she said, you write and talk about some pretty honest stuff. And that's fascinating to me because aren't you supposed to have your shit together as a coach? Does it not worry you that potential clients might not want to work with you because, you haven't got everything figured out, you haven't got everything sorted?" And then I laughed. Those laughs you do where you're drinking something and then it all comes out your nose? It was like one of those laughs when I was like, me, sorted? No, I am not sorted. And neither are my clients. It's not something I really profess to do, to sort people out or get them to a point where they've figured everything out and they kind of go skipping off at the end of our coaching sessions and never have a worry ever again. Instead, I talk to my clients about their lives, about what it's like for them as a human being here on planet Earth. I talk to Sue about how she's got this really big career in the city with a big title, big responsibilities. She makes big decisions all day long, and yet on a Sunday morning she finds herself like covert ninja stalking around Sainsbury's because she's seen a neighbour and she's realised she's still wearing her pyjamas underneath her coat and she's a bit ashamed of what she's got in her shopping trolley. I talked to Helen about how she felt no one really loved her. Her parents didn't love her as a child, and how it became pretty clear that they wanted a boy. She's a girl, she was a girl, and how she just cannot shake how much that still breaks her, even though she's 50 with a mortgage, 2 children of her own. We talk about that kind of stuff. Real life stuff. The stuff that prods away at them, confuses them, hurts them, excites them, wakes them up at 3 a.m. in a flurry of worry. And I write about that kind of stuff too. Really openly, I talk about the stuff that happens in my own life. Because I've learned, and I keep learning, that ultimately this work that we're all doing here, this industry that we're all in together, is about helping your clients to be okay with being themselves. And if you're not out there being okay, being you, in all your messy, complicated, wonderful ways, how will they trust you to guide them? When Nick asked me to do this talk, way back in, I think, April of this year, he sent me a casual Facebook message. I went from, oh, yeah, and I was like, air guitar in my office, like, yeah, I really want to do that. And then after about 5 minutes, I was like, fuck, no, of course I don't want to do this. Why would I even say yes to that? And I very, very, very nearly backed out. But instead of backing out, when I get scared, I write about it instead. So I wrote a blog post about how I very nearly backed out, and I put it on my website for the world to see. And after I'd published it, I started getting emails from people who'd read that blog post saying, oh my God, thanks so much for writing that, Liz, because I was, I've got an audition coming up and I was not going to do it. Or I've got a job interview, but I wasn't going to do it. And I've read that post, and actually, it's all right to be scared. I'm going to do it. I can still do this. Thank you. And they're the kind of people I work with. They're brave, but they're also scared. They're loud, and they're quiet. They're massively capable, and yet they're massively uncertain. They're wise, but they also don't have a clue what they're doing half the time. They're complex. They're a contradiction. And they're drawn to me, I think, because I'm complex and I'm a contradiction too. And that's really the beautiful thing about being a personal brand. It's your stories and your beliefs and your opinions and ideas that draws people to you. So what is being a personal brand? It hadn't occurred to me that I was a personal brand until Nick told me I was. But, so I really had to think, like, what does it mean? And I think it means this. If you don't ever sign up for coaching or sales webinars, don't offer them yourself. If you don't like bolshy websites with swear words emblazoned across the homepage, don't have one yourself. if you feel like punching something, each time you sign up for a freebie on someone's website and then you get pummeled by a barrage of automated sales emails, then don't pummel your potential clients with automated sales emails either. I did it once. I worked with a business coach once who was absolutely like, the way to grow your business is sales funnels. Do sales funnels. Give something free on your website and then send a flurry of sales emails afterwards. So I said, I don't really want to do that. And she said, I know better. And I said, okay, I'll try it. I tried it for a week and it was pretty awful. And I shared my feelings about that in another blog post for the whole world to see. Now, when you open a can of baked beans, you expect to get baked beans. Imagine how pissed off you'd be if you got, I don't know, sweet corn or something like that. Don't do that in your business either. Do what you say on the tin. Be who you say on the tin. Use plain language. You know, if you roll your eyes when you read articles about living in alignment and connecting to your authentic self because you don't really connect with that or you don't know what it means, then don't write like that either. If you, if you like the sound of a coach, then, you can, and they connect with you, then of course, you can sound like that too, but also be yourself. Also, don't try and sound like other coaches if they don't sound like you. When I first started coaching, I think back in 2014, I really, really loved Danielle Laporte. Do you know, everyone knows Danielle Laporte? And I really tried to emulate her. And let me tell you, a no-nonsense northerner from Manchester cannot in any way emulate a graceful woman from Vancouver who once sat with the Dalai Lama. I just sounded like a twat. Yeah, that was something I wasn't proud of either. We're working in a heavily saturated industry. Coaches are 10 a penny. I did a quick Google of life coaches in London when I was writing the notes for this talk. And I was presented with website after website after website. And you know what? Most of them sounded the same, looked the same. Same fonts, same colours, same photos, same taglines, just same. Everything was the same. Also, most of them profess to be the top life coach in London. They can't all be the top life coach. Who makes this stuff up? I do not know. Anyway. And as I was scrolling through the websites, all I kept thinking was, who are you, though? Like, most of what I was looking at left me with more questions than it did answers. Do you know what I wanted to know from the websites? I wanted to know what makes them come alive beyond earning 7 figures. I wanted to know what they worry about at night, these coaches. I wanted to know if they think weird shit like I do. I wanted to know if when they're meditating, they also do their shopping list. I can't be the only one. I wanted to know that even though they're a qualified coach with, certificates nailed to the wall, that they don't always have their shit together either. I wanted to understand them beyond their shiny websites and their very shiny hair. I wanted to know that they sometimes struggle too, so that I guess they would perhaps understand my struggles. I wanted to feel a connection. I wanted to feel I get you, Liz Goodchild. And I didn't feel it from not even one, and it was a real shame. We humans are wired to connect. We all know this. It's so simple, in theory, and yet connection is the hardest thing to do. Why? Because, and I can hardly bring myself to say this word because it's the most overused word in the entire self-help industry. We don't like to be vulnerable. Do you know when you look at a word, it doesn't even look right anymore? It is spelt right, isn't it? Don't even look right. Being vulnerable. It's scary, isn't it? Being vulnerable. We think that people will judge us, that people might reject us for being honest about who we really are. I think it's been drummed into us our entire lives to appear perfect and slick and like we've got it all together. And yet the truth is, no one's got it all together. I haven't. Has anyone in this room got it all together, like all the time? No one. No one has it all together. Brené Brown once said, "We're all grateful for people who write and speak in ways that help us remember that we're not alone." And most of the time, I think when people find me on the internet, they're feeling alone. In fact, I don't think that, I know it, because they write to me, they send me emails, and they send me Facebook messages as they're scrolling through my website, or maybe a blog post or an article I've written for something else. They tell me that they're searching for something, but they can't quite put their finger on it. And I think what it is that they're searching for is belonging. A sense of, oh, someone gets me. And it's in those moments when they've found my website, something I've written, in which I'm normally sharing something truthful from my own life, that I think they realise that they don't have to hold it all in anymore. That they can be honest about what's happening in their life too. Knowing that, if we work together, we're going to be in it together. My clients don't expect me to know all the answers. They don't expect me to be the expert. I hope they don't. Anyway, some of them are sitting there. They might tell me differently later. They look to me to be human and open and encouraging and insightful. And I don't just hold the space for my clients. I get in the space with them and I say, budge up, let's really talk about what's going on. They just want me to be me with them. They just want complete humanness. Most people, they don't care if you earn 6 or 7 figures. Most people actually don't care about your 5 steps to an amazing life ebook. Not everyone will even care how qualified you are. I asked my Facebook group months ago, I said, do any of you know actually what my qualifications are? And they're all like, oh no, what are they? And I was like, oh God. So, some people won't even care about how qualified you are. What people really care about is how you can help them and why they should work with you. And if they generally figure out how they're going to work with you, the way that they're going to work with you is by, your Facebook page or your Facebook live videos or your YouTube channel or your articles that you write in, then say something about yourself. Stand out. Tell a story, a vulnerable story. Doesn't have to be a New York Times bestseller, and it absolutely doesn't have to be a car crash account about something that you don't even feel remotely comfortable talking or writing about. Vulnerable stories don't have to mean hanging your underwear out for all to see. They can just be a quiet nod to that time you really fucked up, or that time you agreed to talk at a conference and you were scared out your mind. That'll be me. I think Brené Brown, I've mentioned her before, she said it best with, I don't share anything until my healing and growth is no longer dependent on the reaction to it. I completely agree. One of my all-time favourite quotes is from my all-time favourite film, Almost Famous. Does anyone know that film? No? Oh, thank you. One person. You're missing out. You know it, Libby. The character, Lester Bangs, says to the young William Miller, the only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. So be uncool, because you probably are quite uncool. I am. We don't have to be cool. It's a relief, isn't it? Be weird. You can be weird with your clients. I mean, not, you know. I don't want to be encouraging, you know, inappropriate behavior with your clients, but you can be weird, you know. You can be yourself. Sometimes I wear odd clothes, like you saw the sheep jumper and strange pajama bottoms and stuff when I'm coaching my clients via Skype. Or sometimes I wear like a smart shirt like this and then weird trousers. And I'll show my clients and say, look what I'm wearing today, it's odd. So, you know, you can be weird. Open up with them. Let go a little bit. You don't have to be perfect. Your you-ness is a gift. There is no one else like you. It's an opportunity, your you-ness, to ask your clients, not just through words, but your actions, can you just be more you today because I'm being more me? One of my clients, he works in he works for big brands. He does lots of marketing and consulting. And he said to me the other week, he said, people trust big business. People don't trust big business anymore, Liz. They just trust people. And he's having to kind of pivot the work that he's doing with massive brands like Coca-Cola and stuff like that, because he's learning that people don't trust brands anymore. They just trust the people behind them. And I really agree with him. So this is what I think about that, how to actually apply that. Let your clients see you, not just the polished, professional coach, but the person underneath. How many of your clients really see you beyond just the veneer of, I'm the coach? How many of them know anything about you? You don't have to fix your clients. It's their responsibility to change and learn how to be themselves in a world that pretty much wants them to be anything but. And it's your role as the coach to inspire that process. And what better way to encourage your clients to be themselves than to be yourself with them, to model what that actually means and looks like each session. Let them see your personality. Let them know what you believe in, what excites you, what scares you. One of my clients said to me the other day, she was telling me something, she said, but you're not like that, are you? Because that wouldn't scare you. And I said, oh my God, yeah, that would terrify me. And she said, I feel so much better just knowing that would frighten you too. God, it really takes a weight off. So let them know a little bit about you. They're not just in it with you for the coaching. They're in it because of you and who you are and what you mean to them. So just be yourself. I know it's almost cliche, cheesy advice, but let your clients see you. You can also take my dad's advice. Remember, you're a good child. Well, you don't have to use my surname. You can use your own. Thank you. Shall I go on?
Yeah, you stay here. Thank you, Liz. That was really wonderful. There was so much. It felt like you were really summing up so much of what we'd explored today in your words about being yourself and being you and being authentically you. So we have Liz for sort of 5-10 minutes. I'm really curious about what questions would you like to ask of her? You said it all. They've got no questions left. So I suppose I have one of the questions that I'd like to ask you is. We talk about being vulnerable and being ourselves and stepping out there into that space. Are there any times when that vulnerability, you just can't get through it to get into that space?
What do you mean by that?
So in the sense of, there's something to be done or you'd like to do, and you want to be vulnerable and do that thing, but it just feels too big or too much for you.
Yeah, I mean, in lots of ways, I feel very vulnerable about things. Do you mean in terms of encouraging clients to be vulnerable?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of being a personal brand and being vulnerable and letting your clients see you, as the Brené Brown quote that I used, I don't talk about things that are going on in my life that are very present, unless it's helpful for my clients. But, as I said before, it's not a case of just airing your underwear just for the sake of being vulnerable. I think there's a lot out there at the moment about I'm going to tell the truth on Facebook. And it just sometimes seems like a bit of a car crash. And, there's lots of things in my life, that took me years to write about. My mum's suicide. I didn't write or talk about that for about 10 years. Because it was just too painful. It was too raw. It felt too vulnerable. There would be nothing helpful for my clients because I was just suffering myself. And yet now I do, sometimes write about that time because it's helpful for people reading it. And a lot of people say, thank you so much for writing about your mum's death. And, I sat one day reading all your blog posts about that because it's really helped me come to terms with, my parents' death or whatever. So I think there's a fine line between, it being helpful and then also just an opportunity for you to kind of be a bit like #vulnerable. And it's actually not at all helpful.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you for sharing that. And it's really lovely. It made me think about the amount of time you need to give something that's happened for you before you share it out into the world. So we don't need to be automatic in our sharing, but we can actually give space and time to things. Lovely. Another thought that I wanted to ask or share with you was it was really lovely when you spoke about your blog posts and showed us a few lines. Because I think a lot of us think about when we have to write or do blog posts that it's got to be like 500 words long and it's got to have a fancy picture to it and an interesting tagline at the end. And you just kind of just got the point out there nice and simply. Yeah,
I mean, I think I'm going to give you a top tip, 3 top tips. Tell a story. We love stories. It's why people watch EastEnders. Everyone loves a story. So tell a story about, something that's happened to you or something you heard about. Tell the story, what happened, what you learnt from it, and what you're encouraging, other people to do. So that, that's how I write. What is the lesson in this? Why would it be helpful for someone else?
Lovely, brilliant, thank you. I think there was a question just here. Lovely.
Great talk.
Thank you.
I'm really loving the fact that you're talking about bringing personality into it, because I think when we're training, we kind of become ciphers almost, expressionless and, don't pollute the environment and all that sort of thing. But I think what you were saying very much ties into what Nick said as well about breaking the rules when it feels right, using your intuition, really tapping into that person and feeling that connection with them, that there are times when it is okay to make that connection during a session because it just genuinely feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I think, again, there's a line between kind of, you know, taking over an entire session, just talking about yourself. Oh, I did that. And,
exactly.
you know, I think there's a line and you have to feel, you know, and I will often say to my clients, I've got something I could say that might be helpful that I've experienced. Do you want to know about it? And I think often that's the confusion with therapy and coaching, you know, where, you know, in traditional therapy, you don't know anything about your therapist. Sometimes you don't, you know, they're sat behind you or whatever. And I struggled with that because I'd had a lot of therapy and I didn't know anything about my therapist. But actually looking back at that time, I think I chose her because she was quite maternal and she reminded me of my mum, and I needed that in that time. And I think in a way it would have been nice to know a little bit about her. I mean, maybe not, but I struggled with that, you know, when I started coaching of like, okay, how much can I go into here? How open should I really be? But yeah, it's worked for me. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We've got a question at the back of the room.
Hi, Liz. That was great. Thank you. I'm just wondering, I know there's been a lot of talk about kind of niches and targeting your audience and stuff, and I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that. I
don't have a niche. Robert asked me before, didn't you? What did you ask me? Like, who do you work with? I said, anyone who's alive. As if you're human and you have a heartbeat, I will work with you. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's some people who I probably wouldn't work with. I don't have a niche because the reason I don't have a niche, and I've thought a lot about it, and I've worked with business coaches who really want to niche me, is that, you know, if I was a, I don't know, a confidence coach or something like that, I'm sure those of you who are, you know, coaching, you will find, or maybe it's just me, but you'll find that what your clients come to you with initially is kind of not what they end up leaving with. Like, so they'll come to you because their marriage is in tatters, but they'll leave with, I don't know, they've set up this massive business and we kind of didn't really touch on the marriage bit, or, you know, it's weaved in. And I don't know how to niche because, I could be a confidence coach, but I mean, or a career coach, but then I'd probably start talking to them about God knows what. And I guess that is what happens, whether you niche or not, that you just end up talking about whatever comes up in sessions. But it doesn't feel very congruent for me to say this is, you know, so I just say, if you've got shit going on, let's talk, basically, which covers everyone, pretty much.
Lovely, thank you. Do we have one more question for Liz? Yeah, we've got a question just here. Lovely, thank you.
So just building on from that, how have you then made it work for you strategically within business in terms of marketing budgets and networking with particular people, or how you introduce yourself?
Well, I don't introduce myself because I'm an introvert and I don't do networking. So I'm like the opposite of Brad. I'm like, so
How do people find you then?
They find me through my website predominantly. It's been a bit hit or miss. I'm not very strategic, which is why business coaches tend to not work with me, because I just get on their nerves because I can't strategize. I'm a bit too woo. For me, it's been my writing. And I know that's not helpful for everyone because some of you just won't write. But I write a lot. And that's been really helpful because I'll write something on Facebook and then it'll get shared, or someone will share my blog post, or someone will just be Googling something and they will find me. But I've not been massively strategic. My Facebook page is quite popular. I mean, it's not like tens of thousands of people, but it's quite popular with the people who do follow me. So that's been really helpful. The only strategic thing I've done recently, and it was done in a very scrappy hit or miss Liz Goodchild way, was Google AdWords. So I started to play around with them. I didn't know what I was doing at all. And that's actually been probably this year my most lucrative channel because I've kind of pulled away a little bit from Facebook and social media, and I don't kind of hang around there as much. So that's been a strategy. But my writing has been what's drawn people to me, I think. And as I said, that might not be helpful for some of you because you don't like writing. But get on camera, you know, do a podcast. There's so many different ways of connecting with people. People are on the phones all the time. So, you know, how can you connect with people, you know, via the internet, or if you are a networker, you know, that's obviously a good way as well. So,
great, thank you.
Brilliant. Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your thoughts, your ideas. Let's give Liz a huge round of applause.
Thank you very much.